Welcome to episode 16 of Escape the Rat Race Radio. I'm your host, Christian Rodwell, and this is your ticket to escape the 9 to 5.
Every job you have is teaching you something you need on the next step. See it on the way, not in the way. See how it's helping you get to the next step and put in the extra hours to go and build the new career path. Just know that if you don't do that, you'll end up breaking your body down. You'll end up blowing your money on vacations and escape things. Because anytime you're not having meaning and engaged at work, you're uninspired, in other words, anytime you do, you'll automatically go blow your money on immediate gratifying things and consumables that live vicariously through other people's brands instead of build your own brand. And you'll end up blowing your money instead of using your money wisely to go and build something that's next, that's more inspiring for you. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, it's going to keep filling up with low priority distractions that don't.
Greetings, go-getters, and thank you for joining me for part 2 of my interview with Dr. John Demartini. I hope that you've managed to catch part 1, which was episode 15, and we're following straight on. And in this part of the interview, I asked Dr. Demartini really for some real-life advice on anyone who's actually looking to make that transition out of a 9 to 5 job and start their own business. And he gives some really good advice as how you must assess the situation, because sometimes the grass looks greener on the other side. But you have to make sure that you're picking the business, obviously with your values at the forefront, to make sure that you're following something that is going to really fulfill your purpose and you're not just chasing the money. And in fact, an interesting statistic that he shared is that whenever he speaks, he always asks the question of who wants to be financially independent. And 99 out of 100 people will put their hand up in the room. And the fact is that out of those 99, probably 98 will fail to become financially independent. And so what is it that is the difference in that 1%? He will be sharing some of those steps and also the different options available to you right now if you're currently feeling unfulfilled in your current job. Because sometimes there are things that actually could be changed to improve the current situation, and maybe looking to start your own business is not the right solution for you at this stage. So let's get straight into part 2 of my interview with Dr. John Demartini. Would you mind telling us about the ABCs of negativity?
Yeah, anytime you set a goal that is not aligned with your own values, or you expect somebody else to live not in their highest values, or you're expecting a one-sided world, you're going to have what is called the ABCDs of negativity, which is internal anger and aggression, internal blame and betrayal, feelings of betrayal, internal criticism and challenge, internal despair and depression, the desire to exit and escape, the desire to be frustrated and frightened, and the desire to be grouchy and have grief. These ABCDFGs of negativity, anytime you expect yourself to live outside your own values, you'll have them. Anytime you expect somebody else to live outside their values, you'll project them onto other people. So we have those as feedback mechanisms to let us know we have unrealistic expectations on ourselves or other people.
People talk about your inner genius, and I'm guessing that there's going to be a link here to values. And we sometimes talk of your inner genius, it's your personality type, and that your personality type doesn't really change throughout your lifetime. So you'll see people who are naturally creative come up with ideas very easily, and there are others who go out and just connect and love being around people, others who are better at service and timing, and then maybe others who are focused more on the details and the numbers and strategy. So how does that link with values, and how would you suggest someone discovers their genius and actually knows when they have discovered their genius and that they should follow their flow in that area?
I don't like to put labels on people because I have every one of those traits at different moments and different times and different settings. There's times when I'm outgoing and extroverted, and other times I'm more introverted, and sometimes I'm detailed, and sometimes I'm big visionary. I have all those components at different settings. I'll give you a story to start this. About 7 years ago, I was doing a program on comparative sciences, religions, and philosophies of the world. It's a 10-day program I do called the Imperience Series. During a lunch break, I went out to meet with my girlfriend, who is sort of a socialite and knows a lot of people in the city, a lot of wealthy people, in fact. She was having a social luncheon with these people, and they were talking about social gossip going on, what's going on in the city. Now, I'm not in the city of Houston that often, even though I'm born here. I visit there just about 4 times a year. And they were talking about social events and people there that I didn't know anything about. So I sat there at that lunch and didn't say a word. Hard as that may sound, I didn't say a word. I just sat there and listened and was very introverted. And the ladies that she introduced me to never met me before. And when I left to go back to the seminar, they said, well, your boyfriend seems so quiet. He's sort of introverted. Doesn't seem like he's outgoing. He doesn't seem very assertive or aggressive. Is he any good in bed? And that's what they said to her. And she laughed. She says, this guy, you have no idea. You just get it. You got him out of context. You put him in front of human behavior, in front of 10,000 people, and you'll see this guy a different person. But you put him in a social setting where he's talking about things that doesn't mean anything to him, and he'll quiet. So you got to watch out for labels. Sometimes the psychographics of people and psychometrics of people can be misleading. When people are living congruently with their highest values, they become more outgoing because they're more confident. When they're living in things that are low in their values, they're more introverted. I'm very low in technology. I delegate all technology to other people. I just don't deal with it. I mean, I don't even carry around a cell phone. I delegate everything because I don't want to be distracted from my research. So if I was to go to a conference in Las Vegas on technology, I would be a learned, disabled, attention deficit, quiet, introverted kind of guy. But if I'm sitting at a human behavioral conference, I'd probably be the center of attention. So in that setting, I'm a different personality. So anytime you're setting goals that are congruent to align with your highest values, you'll tend to excel. Just like a 12-year-old who loves his video games, he will automatically conquer the video game and then want to pursue greater video games and go to the more advanced, challenging video game. And whenever you're challenged, that's when you wake up innovation, creativity, and genius. So in your highest value, when you're setting goals that are aligned with that and living congruently with that, you spontaneously wake up your genius capacities. And what that is depends on the individual. Some people wake up their genius capacities raising kids because that's their highest value. Some do it for social causes. Some do it in sports. Some do it in different fields. So the hierarchy of their values is dictating where their genius is going to be awakened. And setting goals that are congruent with highest values is one of the keys of waking genius.
If some of our listeners maybe are currently in a 9-to-5 job and they're not enjoying it, they hate their boss, they're stressed, they don't feel fulfilled, there's something that they would like to do. So they have an interest, a specific passion, but they make excuses. They say, it's so risky to start a business, and I've got the security of the job and the monthly paycheck, and if I leave, I've got to look after the mortgage, the family, all of these kind of excuses. What would your advice be to someone in this position, where they're kind of balancing, do I stay in this sort of safety for the rest of my life, or do I take the so-called risk of following what they're passionate about?
Unless you get really clear about what you're going to do that's an alternative, that's going to produce a reasonable income that exceeds the current income at the job that you have, you're not going to move. The probability is very low because you're not going to make a decision unless you think there's going to be more advantages and disadvantages. And if your highest value is security, you're probably not going to go out and be an entrepreneur and take a risk. So what I first do is I start them on a journey of identifying what it is that they say they would prefer to do and make sure they do a business plan to work out the kinks and make sure it's a viable system that serves people, that has a viable way of making an income. I encourage them to consider spending extra hours out of the day doing so they work on a plan and have a business plan that's real and viable. If they work on the plan, the purpose of setting a strategic plan together is to mitigate the risks so you're not anxious about that change in job. Then I would go to the job description you currently are in, and I would make a list of all the things you're doing and then ask how specifically is doing these actions going to help me in my new career path, and be appreciative of the temporary job you have as a stepping stone to where you want to go. If you can see it on the way, not in the way, you're not devitalized by it, but you're vitalized on it transiently until you make your jump. But don't make a jump foolishly, make a jump strategically by making sure that you've spent the extra hours building the other business up to cover the security. And once you make the income from the new business, you can say goodbye to the old business or convert the old business into one of your clients. But don't expect to jump without a plan. That's foolish. You won't do it. And appreciate what you do. Every job you have is teaching you something you need on the next step. So see the job you have as a temporary job that's teaching you what you need to go to the next step, and appreciate it. Because otherwise you're weighing yourself down and you'll drain yourself every day going to work. See it on the way, not in the way. See how it's helping you get to the next step, and put in the extra hours to go and build the new career path. Just know that if you don't do that, you'll end up breaking your body down. You'll end up blowing your money on vacations and escape things. Because anytime you're not having meaning and engaged at work, you're uninspired, in other words, anytime you do, you'll automatically go blow your money on immediate gratifying things and consumables that live vicariously through other people's brands instead of build your own brand. And you'll end up blowing your money instead of using your money wisely to go and build something that's next, that's more inspiring for you. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, it's going to keep filling up with low priority distractions that don't.
And often someone in that position maybe thinks that the grass is greener on the other side in terms of entrepreneurship, starting their own business, when actually it may not be. And it may just be that their current surroundings, that job is not the right one for them. So it's wise to really be clear about that fact, I think.
Well, the thing is the business plan, the purpose of doing a strategic planning in a business is to mitigate risk, to destroy fantasies that you have that are making you not appreciate the job you have. Because sometimes you're comparing your current job to a fantasy that you think is going to be best benefit. But once you go and do the plan, you get to find out all that's involved. And you may find out that thing you wanted to go after isn't really important to you. And then you'll break that fantasy so you can appreciate your job. Or if you discover that you have skills in the job you have, and you think that there's another opportunity at another company that's going to allow you to excel in those skills, then investigate the other company. I always say that unless you have a backup plan, you're not in a negotiation table. You can't negotiate until you have a backup. Go and look at other jobs. If you find one that's more viable, leverage that to your advantage and possibly go and take another job position. But sitting there bitching and griping about your life and that you're unfulfilled is a waste of energy. Wise thing to do is get into action.
I agree. And often actually looking at increased ways to deliver value in your current position that actually might change circumstances and may result in a pay increase or a promotion and actually solve the current problem, so to speak.
I have a series of steps, an 8-step process on how to get a raise. And I tell people, don't ever go and ask for a raise unless you've truly added more value to the company. They have to make more profit for you to get more money. So if you can go to a company and you can look at that company and find out a niche that you actually do love doing. I've helped a lot of people go into a company and position themselves differently in the company to get the job that they wanted by offering more services and working extra hours and showing and educating themselves towards that position. But if you can show that you've made progress and learned and are more skilled and more capable, and you can document what you've contributed economically to the company, and you know what the margins of the company are, and you can exceed those margins, then you can deserve to go and ask for a raise. So yes, that could be another factor. But I take people who have job descriptions that they're uninspired by and ask them how doing this activity can help them fulfill what's meaningful to their lives. Sometimes that's all it takes to appreciate the job you have. You got all those options. You can appreciate the job you have. You can try to transform the job that you're in and take on different positions and target the things you love doing and excel at it. You can go out and start your own business. You can turn this job into one of your clients in a new business, or you can probably go out and find another job that's more in line with you. All the above, you want to give yourself permission to at least explore. But beware of outside fantasies that make you not appreciate your realities. Because I always say that depression is a comparison of your current reality to a fantasy you keep holding on to. Make sure that you mitigate the fantasies by getting a business plan together to make sure that what you're going after is real.
And obviously with our community members, we do help them launch their businesses and get really clear about their definitive purpose. However, the statistics, certainly in the UK, I imagine similar in America, are that 9 out of 10 new businesses don't make it. Why do you think that is?
Well, what they do is they often project their fantasies of what the market needs onto the market instead of finding out what the real market wants. And anytime you're not meeting market needs, you have a lot of uphill push trying to market something that people don't want. So you want to make sure that you go out and find out what the needs are. You also want to find out where it overlaps what you're inspired by. And when you find what you're inspired to deliver and what the people want, you find a niche. And that's the first step. And many people have these fantasy ideas. I see it all the time. People have these fantasy ideas about what the world needs instead of actually finding out what the world's searching for. If you find out what the world's searching for and you can provide something more effectively and efficiently than somebody else, you've got a niche. But you have to do your due diligence and not just jump out there undercapitalized with fantasies. If you go out there and make sure that you are doing something that really serves people, you'll have a source of income. And then you can leverage that into ever greater degrees of growth and scale it up.
So I'd like to come back to some of the questions that we've had from our members. And next one is from Stephen Hall. And I think we've touched on many of these points, but I'd like to ask this question on behalf of Stephen anyway. He says that you talk a lot about setting priorities and goals and figuring out your values, very top down. So thinking of your highest value first, Steve would be really interested to know what you think of the kind of getting things done type approach that are very bottom up. So all the things that are on your mind that are cluttering up in order to make space for considering the bigger picture. Because for Steve personally, for a long time, he really focused on the bigger picture, but he just became too stressed by the long list of everyday things that he wasn't doing or forgetting or procrastinating on. He was just wondering, what your thoughts would be with that.
The basic mastery of this is very simple. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, that build momentum, your life's going to fill up with distractions constantly. So you have to prioritize things and look at what's going to give you the greatest results for the day. What's going to give you the greatest fulfillment, the greatest outcome, greatest productivity, greatest income that you can do, and prioritize it. If you sit there and major in minors and minor in majors all day, you're going to end up not feeling fulfilled and you're not going to get ahead. You have to delegate. You can't have an inspired life without delegation. And if you're sitting there doing all the micro jobs and something that's basically devaluing you, you're not going to get ahead. When I was in practice many years ago, I made a list of everything that I was doing in a day, everything, down to the detail, all the action steps. Then I put out to the right of it in column 2, how much did it produce per hour? And that was eye-opening because I found out that a lot of the stuff I was doing wasn't producing any income, was not productive whatsoever, and I was just trapped doing it because I thought I had to do it. The third one was, how much meaning does it have? Because sometimes I'll sacrifice something that produces for something that's extremely meaningful. The next one is, how much does it cost to replace somebody to do it? If I was to delegate it, how much would it cost per hour for somebody to get it done? So I could get it off my hands, and they were experts, and I could just let it go. And the last one is how much time spent. When I did those 5 columns, it was eye-opening because I realized that I was majoring in minors and minoring in majors. And I then asked, what is the most meaningful things I can do and the most productive things I can do? And I prioritized them. And then I made a goal over the next 2 or 3 years to get people in place to delegate everything else off my plate. Today, I research, write, travel, teach. That's it. I don't do anything else. I haven't cooked since I was 24 years old. I haven't driven a car since I was 26 and a half years ago. I don't do things that are not inspiring to me. It's that simple. I let it go. I delegated them away. And you're not going to live an inspired life as long as you're doing micro bullshit and you're sitting there weighing yourself down with stuff that devalues you compared to what you're capable of producing. It's got to have meaning. It's got to have productivity if you want to have a fulfillment life. So, yeah, if you're going to sit there and get all those things done and major and minor stuff, you're going to keep devaluing yourself and feeling, maybe you'll feel a little take an ease off, but you're much wiser to delegate. And that forces you to have to go out and serve people and make an income to cover the cost. So if you're not serving people and making an income, you can't delegate. You're trapped. And then you come up with excuses why you can't do it. And it sounds like that's what he's done. So I'd advise you to prioritize what you're doing, delegate as much as you can, and get out there and serve more people with more income to pay for the delegations. You'll feel more light. You'll feel more professional. You'll end up with more income. You'll help the economy. There's many different benefits to that in society.
I think you've just answered the remaining question from Nick Hawkes as well, which was around the to-do list that just seems to get longer and longer week after week. Again, that comes down to obviously things that aren't getting done each day are simply not high up on your values list, would you say?
I found out when I was in practice years ago, I could do exams, I could do clinical office visits, I could do radiographs, I could do blood work, I could do urinalysis, I could do all this stuff in the clinical setting. And then I realized I put the dollar value next to it, and I realized, okay, reports are $400 an hour, exams are $750 an hour, adjusting and helping people in office visits is about $1,200 to $1,500 an hour. But going out and speaking and generating patients, I could make $10,000 to $15,000 or more an hour. And I realized that going out and speaking was much more effective in growing the practice. So I ended up hiring 5 doctors to do the clinical, and then I specialized in the highest priority clients and delegated all other clients to these 5 doctors. And my business grew. I made way, way, way more money. I ended up having way more fulfillment. I was more of a leader. I grew a more efficient business. I employed people. I was a leader. It paid off to get clear about what is really priority. And to-do lists are useful if they're priorities. But to-do lists can just pack up on you, and sometimes you feel obligated to do something. If you're not surrounding yourself with people that are capable of doing the things you need to delegate, you're going to trap yourself.
And it's never really been easier, has it, in this day and age with technology the way it is, to to find a virtual assistant, even at very reasonable costs, which you can delegate a lot of this to.
Well, delegation is finding people who are inspired by their own highest values to do the things you need to delegate, so they're fully engaged, so you don't have to micromanage them and push them to do things and distract yourself from doing what you do best. It's hiring A people around you, not lower C, D, and E, and F kind of people. If you hire A people that are greater at what that you need done than you are, you'll free it up and you're out of it. You don't have to think about it. I haven't written a check or looked at the financial matters of my business. It's all been electronically structured by an expert. I don't have to think about it. All I have to do is go and research, write, travel, teach, and serve people. If I do that, the rest of it's taken care of. And I became financially independent because I let go of all that stuff. Why do a $20 to $50 an hour job when I can do a multiple $1,000 an hour job? It's silly.
That leads me on actually to many of our members who are working a 9-to-5 full-time job and starting their own business in the evenings, at weekends, trying to cram everything in, short on time. But there comes that stage where, as you say, you do need to take on, additional help. Maybe that's your first employee or outsourcing. How do people know when the time is right? Or would you just say that should be one of your first priorities is to really just remove some of those tasks away from yourself?
You go and do that exercise. The exercise I gave you is a gold mine. Make a list of everything you do, find out what it produces per hour, honestly, what it can produce, how much meaning, how much does it cost to delegate. That's all the costs, not just salaries, but every cost involved, and how much time is spent. With that information, you can make wise decisions on what it is to delegate first and second, third, etc. And if you can go and produce something that's way more productive, and you can be assured that it's going to produce more income than the cost of delegation, it never costs to properly delegate. It only costs to improperly delegate. When you surround yourself with people that are incompetent and people you think that you're more knowledgeable about, instead of getting people that are more skilled and paying the difference and making sure that you're free to go out and do something that produces more income. If I go out and I'm out networking and I'm generating new business and I make way more money doing that than doing a paper report, then delegate the friggin' paper report off your back and get on with doing something that produces, that's more invigorating and more inspiring to you. Otherwise, you're going to weigh yourself down with uninspiring things that's going to make you burn out. It's liberating yourself through delegation and going at it. And some of it can be outsourced and some can be insourced. But whatever it is, you want to delegate it, because if not, you're trapped by doing low priority stuff. Yeah. I can't imagine doing those things that I did 35 years ago. Can't even imagine doing those things again. I haven't done those 35 years. I wouldn't even think about going back to that, because what I do now is way more productive.
I'd like to rewind, and it's probably, how long has it been now since The Secret was released? At least 10 years or so.
It's 11 years now. It's 11 years since it was released.
Yeah, and it was actually, it always fondly reminds me of one of our first entrepreneurial pursuits, because my housemate at the time had like about 500 DVDs in our front room, and he was a reseller in the UK, and fond memories there. The Secret obviously focused on the law of attraction. So would you mind sharing your thoughts on how you believe the law of attraction works and how someone can apply that?
Your innermost dominant thought tends to become your outermost tangible reality. And your highest value determines your innermost dominant thought. My highest value is teaching. You don't have to remind me or motivate me to think about traveling the world and teaching. I do it every day. It's impossible to get out of my mind. It's what I do. So setting goals that are congruent with your highest values automatically make your innermost dominant thought concentrate on something. You're disciplined to do that. You don't even have to think about it. And your highest values, your glial cells in your brain neuroplastically allow you to maximize your brain function with its awareness and its intention. So in other words, you're going to walk in a mall, you're going to spot things that are aligned with your highest value. If you're a mother who's dedicated to children and you're 35 years old and you have 3 children under the age of 5, if you walk in a mall, you're going to see things that relate to children. If you're an entrepreneur and you're 35 and you're building businesses and you got 3 businesses, you're going to see totally different things in the mall. You're going to see entrepreneurial things. So whatever's highest on your value, you're going to spot in your environment. You have in the pulvinar region of the thalamus, you have literally a filtering, gatekeeping mechanism to help you see in your environment things that help you fulfill what's valuable to you, highest. So you will automatically start seeing opportunity, making quick decisions with the data that you're able to get, and act upon it without hesitation in your highest values. And we call that synchronicity. We call that opportunity. And the law of attraction is nothing more than the synchronicities and opportunities that we're able to spot that we can't see if we set goals that are not aligned with our highest values. So many people have fantasies. I want to be financially independent. If they don't have a value on building wealth, they can't see the opportunities and take advantage of the opportunities that are there. So the law of attraction is a byproduct of congruency between intentions and your highest value. That's where it emerges from. So I'd rather be practical than esoteric about it, because sometimes we have this fantasy that I'm just going to visualize things and it's just going to manifest. That's fine. That sometimes synchronously happens, but that's not something you bet money on. I'd rather bet money on something that we know are facts about the human brain, and that if we set goals that are congruent with the highest values, we have the highest probability of achievement, the highest probability of noticing opportunities, making decisions, and acting on them. So to me, I'd want that in my advantage. The law of attraction is a reflection of congruency between your intentions and your highest values.
It's fascinating how everything links back to your values, and consistency and discipline as well. I imagine, again, both of those fall into place when you're following your highest value.
The people I know that do it have done excellent and have done exceedingly powerful things are the ones that I find most congruent. They're very clear about what their objective is. I have a friend who's in Australia, is building a city inside a city. It's amazing what he's doing, and he's extremely focused. He's extremely targeted, and he's very clear on his highest values, and he's on a mission to fulfill it. And he's doing extraordinary things, and opportunities and ideas and people and all kinds of things just keep manifesting in his life. And it's purely because of congruency, because 10 years ago, that wasn't there. But once he got clear, and once he got congruent, his executive center saw inspired vision, strategically planned it out, executed the plans, and has self-governance. That's the beauty of the executive center in the brain, the medial prefrontal cortex. That area of the brain awakens and gets blood glucose and oxygen when we're congruent with our highest values. And that is where our highest mastery comes from. He's a perfect example of that. I've seen people in sports that are incredibly focused. I've seen people in business that are incredibly focused, that are congruent. That is the number one thing. That's why I target that and emphasize that every talk I do around the world, because that is the most fundamental principle of human behavior.
When the why is strong enough, the how will take care of itself.
I learned that about 20 years old from an Amway guy. I have to say that that's still accurate today. If you've got a big enough reason for doing it, you'll get it done.
So you've inspired thousands, if not millions, of people around the world. I'd love to know, who inspires you, Dr. Demartini?
Oh, that's a good one. I've had many mentors along the journey, but most of them have been the great texts. I've read 30,000 plus texts, and I've stood on the shoulders of a lot of great minds, all the great Greek philosophers, all the way to modern philosophers, the great theologians, the mystics, great business leaders, great financial leaders. I try to put my hand in the pot of glue of the greatest minds and greatest thinkers on the planet that have made the greatest contributions on the planet in every field. Anybody who's a neologist and the founder of a new industry or new discipline, I study the lives of them. They've all been an influence and mentors along the way. And I've done my best to own the traits of whatever I see in them and see where I have those same behaviors, because I believe that nothing's missing in people. And the only reason they're playing small is because they're thinking things are missing in them. So I go through and identify great actions in people and find out where I demonstrate them and awaken them. And I find that that's very productive. But I have hundreds and hundreds of great mentors that have been in my life. But physical mentors, I've had Paul Bragg, I've had Howard Hughes, I've had Jim Parker, I've had many different people along the way, Warren Buffett, lots of people that have assisted me in my journey in each of the areas of life. There's been physical and people that I've read. Both of them have been great mentors.
Do you have a daily discipline? Do you have a morning ritual, certain things that you follow every day that keep you on track?
I don't go to bed at night until I've documented all the things that I'm grateful for. I've got the largest collection of gratitudes of anybody I've met. There's thousands and thousands of pages of those gratefuls, because I found out that if I document what I did achieve and what I'm grateful for each night, I go to bed with a more centered place, and I wake up with more inspiration the next morning. And then in the morning I get up and I ask, what are the 7 highest priority action steps I can do today that can help me fulfill my mission on earth? Now, I've been doing that so long that the same answers keep showing up. So it's research, write, travel, teach. So I do that every day. I research every single day. I write every single day. I travel most days, and I teach most every day. Either we're doing interviews or doing live presentations, or somehow I teach, writing articles or something. And those are the things that I love doing, but I do it. I eat really to live. I don't live to eat. So at breakfast, I have fresh fruit, and I have yogurt, multigrain toast, or some sort of multigrain. I usually have fish, fowl, or chicken and vegetables at lunch or dinner. I'm a really simple guy. I eat to perform. I don't spend long hours doing long social bullshit. I'm focused on what it is that inspires me, and I get after it. I have a simple life, and I have a very intense day. I usually do at least 16 to 18 hours a day, sometimes 20.
Thank you for sharing that. And sometimes we hear of the very successful people, Mark Zuckerberg, an example, he always wears, black t-shirts because he just wants to remove those kind of obsolete decision-making processes that, just don't need to take up his brain space.
At age 23, I got a job at selling suits at Penny's department store. And I was starting into professional school, and I had to get a job, so I went there and did that. And I saw the impact that wearing a suit was. I noticed that people treated me differently. I noticed opportunities were more abundant. And so I realized that. So I have sort of a brand of wearing a nice suit. We also have a Demartini fashion company, because I believe that if you treat yourself and respectfully dress, it will impact the opportunities in your life. It depends on what your career is, but I usually like to dress up. I like quality clothes. I've got an Italian gene in me, and I think that that's my thing. So I rarely do a seminar without my suit. And some people say, you do everything in a suit. Well, I'm either in my birthday suit or my regular suit. I've even rode camels in my suit. I like that, but that's just my thing. That doesn't mean that's an advantage to anybody. It's just my thing. I love a quality outfit that I enjoy wearing. That everybody has their little focus that they do, and that's one of mine.
The point you're making there is to feel comfortable in yourself, comfortable in your own skin, whatever that may be, whether that's dressing up or just being casual.
Well, I found that the way people treated me was different by the way I dressed. So I thought, why would I not use that to my advantage? That's silly, and it's paid off. I was the only person in professional school that wore a professional outfit every single day through school. I figured that if I'm going to be a professional, I might as well start now. And everybody laughed at me when I was in school, but they didn't laugh at me by the time I graduated.
Dr. Demartini, we're coming to the end of our conversation. It's been absolutely a delight speaking with you. I'd love to leave our listeners with one question, which I'll put to you, which is, what would you want your legacy to be?
Well, I'm a firm believer that there's a real magnificence in people that they don't always honor. And I love helping people find the hidden order in their daily chaos and find the inner magnificence to their outer illusions and help them break through whatever limitations they have in their life. And so my legacy is basically the Demartini Prize, which I want to have compete with the Nobel Prize. It's a fund that I put together that will provide income to people that do extraordinary things. And I wanted to compete dollar for dollar for the Nobel Prize. I want my foundation to continue. I want my institute to go on and educate people with my facilitators. And now my daughter's carrying on some of that work. I want my body of work to be left out there that people will use and take advantage of to be able to keep accomplishing and achieving what they want in life. I want to inspire people, and I want to do that after life. I figure that if necessary, if people need to reach me, they can go to a Ouija board and they can communicate with me, and I'll do seminars to Ouija boards.
You've not thought about the virtual reality opportunities that are forthcoming?
Yeah, I had a thing. I wrote a posthumous biography that's a 26-page document of how I want to be perceived 1,000 years from now. And lo and behold, 2009-10, I was asked to speak in Austria at the Melk Abbey with 200 individuals that were leaders in the world. And it was a very inspiring thing. Muhammad Yunus was there, the Dalai Lama was there, and I got to be one of the 12 speakers. At the end of the speech, they took the speakers, 12 speakers, and they took, in a stainless steel cylinder, they took their quotations and teachings, wrapped them up and calligraphied them into a stainless steel airtight cylinder, and stuck them in the Infinity of Divinity library shelf to be stored for 1,000 years into their library shelves where they keep ancient scrolls. And that's when I realized that if I have a goal, an immortal goal, I can create an immortal outcome. So many people say they're immortal souls, but very few people write immortal goals. But unless you have goals beyond your life, you probably won't get the most out of your life.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with our listeners today. On behalf of everyone at Escape the Rat Race, I'd like to thank you. If people would like to reach out, get in touch, I know you obviously speaking, numerous different events. What's the best way for someone to connect and find out more about you?
Well, simply go to drdemartini.com, drdemartini.com. I think you can find me on the internet. I'm all over the internet. So if you go on there and go to the website, it's an educational website. You can look at radio, television, newspapers, magazines, articles, inspired writings, products, YouTube. There's everything there just to educate people. So people can take advantage of that and they can learn about what I'm doing, where I'm at. Not all the programs are on there. It's mainly the public ones. Some private programs are not listed on there, but there's many public programs I do around the world. And there's many webinars that I do, and there's Facebook that you can go to. I'm in the social media, but I would say go to my drdemartini.com and go and do the value determination process. It's a free online system they can do. They just simply go in there and determine their values. It's worth it. It'll help them change their life. So I would advise them to do that. It's worth doing, I promise.
I would testify to that as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time again, Dr. Demartini. I wish you all the very best for the future. I look forward to our next meeting.
Well, thank you so much. And whoever's out there listening, just know that you give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth. It's your real destiny.
Thank you. Well, there we have it, the full interview with Dr. John Demartini, and that was certainly an eye-opener, especially towards the end there, and Dr. Demartini was sharing the 5-column strategy, and that's actually something that I've put together as a blog post on the Escape the Rat Race website. So if you want to go through those steps again, those steps of assessing what you're spending your time, what are you prioritizing your time on every day, what are the tasks you're filling up your day with, and are they actually generating income and moving you towards your goals? It's an absolutely essential exercise that I would highly suggest heading over to etrr.online/blog, and you'll see the blog post there, and you'll be able to follow those steps and fill out the template for yourself and start tracking and understanding what tasks are the most important ones that you need to be prioritizing. And it can actually help to actually dissipate the to-do list of that list of things that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the reason that is probably because these are not serving your highest values. So I hope there's been many insights that you've picked up personally for your own journey and your situation from these 2 parts of the interview. If you haven't listened to part 1, then do head over to iTunes or to Escape the Rat Race website and download episode 15 for part 1 of the interview. And I would highly encourage you to listen back to those maybe once or twice again and take some notes, because there were several nuggets of gold in there which can easily be missed. And certainly when I was re-listening, I picked up on some things which I'd missed around the first time and which are hugely important to understand. If you enjoyed this podcast and if you've been enjoying listening to some of my other interviews across the last 16 episodes and you haven't yet left a review, then I'd really appreciate if you could take just 2 minutes and either head to the iTunes store or Google Play or your preferred format and leave a 5-star positive review if you're enjoying it. And that would really help spread the word to more and more people about what we're doing here at Escape the Rat Race, helping people get really clear and focused on themselves first, and then picking the right path to follow to build your business or build the income that you're looking to acquire so that you can lead the life that you dream of. That's it for this week. I'll see you in another couple of weeks' time. Take care.